All right, this next one is going to be about verb conjugations, which are extremely simple in English, but much more complex in many other languages, which means that for English speakers, they're pretty hard to remember. It's a lot to learn when you're learning Spanish, for example. So, what we'll do is use this prompt. We'll use the 10 most common verbs over and over again to learn all the conjugations well first, and then we'll learn. Uh, Eventually, we'll learn hundreds and then thousands of verbs, yeah, and vocab in general. But we'll use the most common ones, 80-20 rule, because this will show up the most. We'll use these over and over again in many different variations to learn the all the conjugations well, and then we'll slowly increase the amount of verbs we're using uh, in more variations. Yeah, so we'll do hundreds of examples with the most common 10, and then 10 examples with the most common 100, and then 2 or 3 examples with the most common 1000, let's say. Okay, let's go. It's possible that when you do this, sometimes the ChatGPT will be like, "Oh, that's a lot. Let me show you just 50 of them." If it doesn't, just uh, tell it to continue, and that's it. Yeah. So ser y estar are quite complicated for to understand for uh, English speakers. We can also use another prompt to learn those. But yeah, ser to be basically permanent. To be estar is more like situational or occasion. But yeah, yo soy estudiante, tú eres, él es profesor, nosotros somos blah 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 blah. blah. It keeps going, and then you see this is I've been. This is you are being. You would have been, or you would be. Uh, this is how to translate. This is that I be your friend. They will be very famous or well known. He will be a leader. You were my partner. He was the leader. They're obsessed with the leader here. Yeah, continue generating. But you see, you get, and I specifically said A1. So this is basic. Then there are a lot of like, you would have been and all that stuff. That comes later with another prompt. But this is good for just learning basic conjugations. Ellos, tú, yo, ella, nosotros, vosotros, and over again. Different tenses, all the basic past, present, future, and some conditionals. And and that's it. Then you learn this exactly the same as everything else. Create audio file, flashcards, memorize with associations, and just drill until you learn them well. After learning the most common 10 verbs in many different forms, lots of different conjugations, past, present, future tenses, different I, you, us, them, blah, blah, blah. Once you know more or less how all conjugations work, then what we'll do is expand our knowledge. Yeah, we've done 10 verbs, the 10 most common verbs, 100 times each in 100 different variations each. Now we'll do the opposite: 100 most common verbs in um, Spanish. Again, let's use Spanish. Uh, 10 example sentences each. So with this, we'll get less variety. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it does that. If it does this, just click to continue. But yeah, these are the verbs. So yeah, produce, realizar, fumar. Yeah, this is if you know 100 verbs, and you can conjugate them pretty well, that's already you can already speak quite a lot. So to be, and then if it does this, sometimes it does this, and that's it. Yeah, from I'm a student to they would have been champions. Yeah, this is already a little bit more complicated, but you get an idea of all the grammar. Again, do this after the 10 most common ones 100 times each, because that will give you a much better understanding of how conjugations work, because it'll be 100 variations of the same exact verb, so you know exactly how that verb's conjugated. And once you know 10 of them really well in 100 different variations each, you will have a very good understanding of by simple pattern recognition, you'll have a very good understanding of how conjugations work in general, and you'll do much better at applying the same patterns, using the same patterns. Okay, continue. Yeah, you'll have to do this a lot. Even, and this is the premium version. Even, but again, you just have to tell it to continue and then copy and paste them and create spreadsheets, flashcards, etc., audio files with them. And you keep doing this until you have your 1000 sentences with 100 verbs 10 times conjugated each. Is this all the language? No, but it will give you a very good understanding of how conjugations work. And also, you learn, because you see in each one 10 times, you learn the verbs really well as well. Because if to follow is seguir, and you see you you review 10 sentences in a row with seguir in them, by the time you get here, like after a few days, you'll remember the verb. After one day, if you use mnemonic associations. So yeah, this is how you learn verbs fast and conjugations. All right, this one is really simple but really useful. Just have to use this prompt. Write a list of the 100 most common adjectives in uh, whatever uh, Romanian. Each one with an example sentence next to it. You can add this one. This no English explanations needed, because sometimes it gets confused and it starts giving you translations and all that, and you don't need that for now. Yeah, if you're going to turn them into a spreadsheet, and you should, you can then easily create a second column using translator. It's going to be much easier if you don't have the English explanations and translation next to it. So yeah, why the 100 most common adjectives? Because adjectives used to describe things, and they're extremely useful in conversation. The three types of words that are super useful are nouns, obviously, verbs, and adjectives. And if you don't know a single word of Romanian, this is big, this is small, this is beautiful, etc. Uh, yeah, you get mare, casa mea este foarte mare. Mic, am un câine mic, frumos, este un oraș frumos. Urât, această câine este urâtă. And you have the adjective, yeah, big, and then my house is very big. Small, I've got a small dog, although dog small, but um, you don't need to understand this. Just use a translator and paste the translation in the second column, and then you start, yeah, associations with this. Yeah, something mare. For me, mar is sea in Spanish, so it was very easy to big sea, easy to visualize. Mick is, I mean, someone called Mick or Mike you could use. I just visualize a really small microphone. Uh, Bun is good. Burger although from Spanish because it's bueno, it's so similar that it was easy. But yeah, you use associations to learn this, and then you review the whole thing with flashcards, and you binge listen to it after creating audio files. And you learn easily learn. See, nervous, friendly, unpolite, sincere, lying, generous, and if you learn 100 of these, you can describe a lot of stuff. And also, don't forget you're learning complete sentences with this. So um, you learning a lot of practical sentences. Maybe you're not going to say that. What was it? The lying politician. I've seen I've seen it somewhere. I mean, that's everywhere, but I think Romania is especially. Anyway, uh, I mean, it's not like it's much better in Spain, to be honest. But yeah, that's how you that's how you learn adjectives fast with ChatGPT. Later, we'll expand this to 1,000 and even more. Vocabulary is extremely important in language learning. Yeah, I always say it. I know I repeat myself, but people just don't listen. And the reality is that if you don't know the words, it doesn't matter how good you've learned the grammar, how much you talk to people, and how many conversations you try to have, or small talk, and how good you feel. And if you don't have the grammar, you won't understand complex language, and you won't be able to have serious conversations or any kind of meaningful conversation, like outside having like really basic interactions, like ordering stuff and things like that. So you need a lot of words. This is the best way. We use this prompt, write a list of the 1,000 most common nouns. 1,000 are enough. They're not enough to understand everything, but they're enough to, because of the 80/20 rule, this is enough to understand. Maybe not 80%, but let's say at least 50, probably more than that. Especially because they'll come with an example sentence, which means you learn even more words and also a lot of vocab with it. Yeah. So as always, we stop there. Stop right there. Can you guess what the problem is? Yeah. If you don't understand this without the translation, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because we'll use a translator later. We'll simply go into paste this on a spreadsheet and then translate it with any kind of translator. We could even use ChatGPT to translate it, but we need to have them in different columns because otherwise it's going to be impossible to create an audio file to listen to them and repeat. Yeah, and once you've memorized the first, yeah, the word, not the whole sentence. Yeah, the sentence is there to provide context and to make it easier to review the word and to remember it in context. But first, memorize it with associations. After that, you can create audio files, listen to it over and over again. Um, you can listen to the playlists I've got with vocab and verbs and all that. It's always word, example sentence, word, example sentence. If you've memorized the word with associations, if you listen to it over and over, it will be very easy to remember. And also use flashcards with it. Again, to be able to download it as flashcards, you need to have it in two columns. Yeah, column one, uh, target language; column two, your own language. Although you should reverse it later so that you translate from your native language or English into the target language, because that's when the real thinking is happening. That's when you're really learning. You're making mistakes, you get an instant feedback over and over again. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Get ok, je vous recommande d'utiliser une méthode systématique. Yeah, continue. And if it keeps stopping, just keep telling it to continue until you get your 1000 words with example sentences. You could keep this going until you get 10,000. If you are learning a language with complicated grammar and lots of cases and conjugations, this is the prompt you need. This part you should obviously change it. So if you're learning something like uh, Russian with cases, then let's use cases. If it's something like Spanish, then let's use conjugations. Try all three, see how it works. But let's do it with cases this time. So give me a short list of all the cases in Russian. Yeah, let's do Russian. Um, let's use my native Basque as an example as well for a very simple reason. Most of you can't read. You don't understand Basque either, obviously, but you at least you can read it. But it says, well, Cyrillic, you can't read it because I want to prove a point. Russian cases, okay, yeah, Basque is quite complicated. I never heard of this, a lot of this, by the way. I know that dative or dative, whatever it's called, and genitive. But, okay, so you get all this, and the difference is I won't be able to really show much of Russian because yeah, if you can't read Cyrillic, right? Uh, so this is so you this is the second part, right? A list of 20 example sentences for each one of them, and there you go. I'm going to take this and redo it again. In order to make flashcards, I would tell ChatGPT to get rid of this. Yeah, nominative, genitive, and you get endless. Let's redo it. 20 example sentences with this, so that you see the difference much more clearly. So this is who does what. Uh, yeah, the woman has come. Yeah, I have no idea what these things mean. Yeah, this is one. You see, this one. They all on this list, or they all end with a K. It's a big. This is challenging for Basque people who are learning Basque as a second language because it's sometimes it's a K in the end of gizonak. Yeah, woman's drunk the wine. Emakume karda do. There's a K here, but then if you come, yeah, uh, emakume etorri da. Yeah, she's come. Gizonak kalean dago. The man is in the street. Here they don't have Ks. Here they have Ks. This kind of lists are really useful to learn all these endings. Yeah, all the cases. This is to whom? I've given the book to the woman. Emakume ari, ume ei. This is always a or ari. Yeah, amari, kasle, next kachari. Next one is aren or n. This is someone's. Yeah, cover of the book. Yeah, liburu aren. Oh, gizonaren etxea, the house of the man or the man's house. So you after learning 20 of these, you'll remember that the n or aren is the okay someone's. And that this is for someone. Våra gift for the woman. Emakume rensado parero sido. Yeah, this ending. So you see the patterns. You learn the grammar by pattern. It's the same here with Russian, except well, this is if you don't understand Cyrillic, I guess you still can you still can see patterns, right? There's a lot of A's here. Like dom is house, but blisko od doma. The A is close to the house in this case. Or A or ya in this case. This depends on if it's masculine and feminine. Sometimes you can do this and then you can take this and ask ChatGPT to give you 100, 300 more examples of one specific. Okay, let's learn dative case. Again, I always try to avoid these terms, but it's good to just, in order to give ChatGPT instructions, it's good for that. This is how you learn languages with complicated grammar, which you can see Russian is complicated, and this is even more complicated. Not for me because I learned it as a native, but um, native speakers really struggle with this. Non-native speakers learning. Sorry. And finally, this is another prompt you can use to massively increase your vocabulary in the language that you learn. This is the prompt. Write the list of the 1,000 most common nouns in the language, in not language. So we switch to, let's say, Spanish there, French, or whatever you're learning. And instead of nouns, you could also use adjectives or verbs, and each one with up to 5 synonyms next to it. So we used a 1,000 most common nouns list already with an example sentence next to it. Now instead, what we'll do is 5 synonyms. And the difference is that without, if it starts acting up with this stuff, just tell it to continue. Um, so the difference here is that it's harder to remember without an example sentence, but we can learn them exactly the same way. I recommend doing the example sentence once first, because then you'll know this pretty well, the first word, and probably a lot of them following the synonyms of. They're not exactly synonyms. Some of them, they're similar words, but not exactly the same. Um, but what I recommend is same approach. Create audio files, create a spreadsheet, translations, and you memorize the words, and then you put them in flashcards, and you get the English, and you try to remember. So yeah, this is, again, it's hard to get exact translations for everything, but yeah, house, home, uh, again, so home, your residence, again, residence. Yeah, I can't really think. It's hard, but the point is, you should do Spanish to English first, and then English to Spanish with flashcards. So you have to retrieve all this. So eventually, quite fast actually, if you do it this way, you learn all of them. Doesn't mean that all of them will be very useful in conversation. Most of them probably won't, but they'll be very useful in order to understand more complex language. And also, it'd be helpful for you to sound a little bit more eloquent in the language instead of using the same like 50 words over and over again, like a lot of people do. Yeah, you need a lot of vocab if you want to sound, like if you want your Spanish or your French or whatever language you're learning, if you want to sound good instead of just, really basic, you need vocab, and also to understand. So I highly recommend, again, if it does this, just tell it to continue a bit more. See, child, and then you have all of this are quite, maybe not this one, but Creole, yeah, depends on this is more formal. This is old school. This is quite informal. Yeah, papa, progenitor, patriarca. Yeah, I guess if you're the the head of a gypsy family, they use that with you. But for the most part, it's not all that common. But yeah, you get the idea. You learn lots of words with this flashcards and retrieval practice. And that's it. This will be because if you want to learn language well, and if you want to read the press, and you want to read books, and you want to understand podcasts and shows, and you want to have deep, meaningful conversations about interesting topics, you need that way more than a few hundred words. That's good for survival. Yeah, this you need this for fluency, or even proficiency in the language. This is how you learn lots and lots of vocab. Obviously, combining it with massive amounts of listening to native speaker content. Yeah.